Welcome to Van Tate's Sports Office, an in-depth look at the world of sports, featuring exclusive interviews with our KRQE News Sports Director Van Tate, sponsored by Caesars Sportsbook at Route 66 Casino.
Very special sports office because we got a guy named Ryan Berryman. And if you've been following UNM Athletics, you know that's a good name right now, a big name. Everybody's supporting him. Interim Athletic Director. And Ryan, hey man, these are some shoes that I'm sure you wanted to wear because your rise is like historical, man. You started as a manager for Alford's team, or?
I started as a student manager. Yep. So my job was to make sure that Coach Alford's practice gear was clean and that the jerseys didn't have wrinkles. So yeah, that's how my journey with Lobo Athletics started in 2012. Yeah.
What when you look back on that, are you going like, pinch me? I can't believe I'm doing this right now.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Sometimes you don't realize it in the moment, but when you have a chance to sit and reflect, it's powerful. I mean, it's really exciting. I mean, these are things I dreamed about growing up as a New Mexican, as a Lobo fan. So it's pretty surreal.
And if in case people don't know your background, I didn't even know that I knew of this guy kind of before all of this. Because you grew up here. East Mountain High School. You played basketball against my son?
I played basketball at East Mountain High School. So that's kind of how the journey gets started, actually, Van. So I played at East Mountain High School. Your son was a great player at Bosque. He played for Craig Snow, who you guys regularly beat us by like 30 points. So we always took it on the chin for Bosque. I always had to guard your son. It was my worst game all year always. So anyway, Craig Snow was there. He was the head coach at Bosque, and then he got the opportunity to join Coach Alford's staff at UNM. And we kept in touch because I think he felt bad for me for beating us all the time. So, between him and then I became friends with Hugh Greenwood on my first day at UNM, and that's kind of what opened the door for me to get started with the basketball program. Yeah, so it's kind of weird how all those things kind of work out.
Yeah. So now you're in this spot, interim athletics director. What do you think you have to do to make them take that interim tag off to make it permanent?
Yeah, I mean, these things are always complex, right? There's a lot of stakeholders involved, especially when you work at a university, and especially in this state, right? There's so many eyeballs and people that care about the university. And so there'll be processes in place. I think they're getting ready to launch that process, and they'll have a national search for what that looks like. And, I think a lot of us on our staff always aspire to be ADs. And so we'll put our best foot forward and see how that goes. But in the meantime, my job as an interim AD is different than it would be as a full-time AD.
And when you say as your job is different, what does that include? Like, is it more, okay, well, you're not doing this, but you're doing this, or?
Yeah, it's a good question. My wife's sick of this joke, but really I'm kind of a substitute teacher right now, right? That's the best way to describe it because class has to go on, right?
Hey, man, I like the sense of humor, man.
Yeah, so she's sick of that joke, but I think it fits because we still have a job to do. We still have work to do. But I'm not going to go in and change the entire curriculum, right? That's not my job. My job right now is to serve as the athletic director, to steady the waters, make sure our coaches don't feel the impact of change. And then, if I am fortunate to have an opportunity or whoever has that opportunity, then they could look at making some more, monumental changes or bigger changes when they're in that full-time role. So
here's my thing, man. You are from here. You know the quirks of the state and stuff like that. And so I think – I would see it as an opportunity maybe for the university to have one of their own to take this momentum that Eddie Nunez, Fernando Lovo started. This thing's going. It seems like the SS Lobo is going in the right direction, and to keep that going, it just seems like he would be the guy.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that, Van. I mean, I've had the opportunity to work for some incredible leaders. I mean, you mentioned a few of them already. To learn from Coach Alford, to learn from Coach Neal, to learn from Coach Weir, to learn from Eddie, to learn from my boss at Washington, Pat Chun, and to learn from Fernando. I mean, you try to take little bits and pieces from all that for your professional experience, my professional experience, and blend that with growing up in it, right? And I think having that unique lens, having really seen every layer of the organization and kind of how everything works together, that's what I try to do. I try to add my professional experience with my personal journey. And I think, to your point, being from here, there's certain things that we know, that we notice, that we connect with people on. And so trying to blend those things is really what I try to do.
What has the fire been like from moving from the seat that you were in to this one? I mean, what's been like the biggest difference?
Yeah, I think the reality is the way our staff was structured, I was involved in a lot of what was going on in every decision or discussion last year with Fernando. We became very close, and I consider him one of the biggest professional mentors in my life. And so a lot of the work stuff is similar, right? I think it's different in the sense that maybe I'm getting some questions that Fernando used to get, or, I have to think about things maybe at a higher level when I was kind of poking holes in some of his ideas before. And so now I have to lean on my staff to poke holes in some of my ideas. So I think there's a balance there when you slide over. And then obviously just balancing all the stakeholders involved, right? There's a lot of people that want to be involved with our brand, with our teams, and that's what makes it so special. But making sure that everyone feels taken care of and seen is certainly something I've noticed just sliding over a chair.
What is your vision for this place as far as, I know Fernando was talking about doing improvements to the stadium and different things like that and phasing in and all of that. Are you looking at the same stuff if this becomes permanent? Are you still focused that way and are you envisioning big things for UNM Athletics?
Yeah, certainly have a grand vision. I think when I back up a little bit and think about what made me so passionate about Lobo Athletics growing up is that I feel like a lot of people in this state, a lot of people in New Mexico feel like the Lobos put us on the map, right? Whether you went to school, whether you played at UNM, or you're just from New Mexico, a lot of people identify with the brand to represent all of New Mexico on a national stage. And so that's something I take very seriously in our role as an athletic department because I think we have a great responsibility to do that. So that's kind of the higher level vision is how do we represent our city, our university, our state on a national scale. I think in the immediate term, some of the things we're working on, when you look at what's going on in college athletics, we talked a little bit before we went on air about conference realignments and some of the things driving that. Football is really the driving force in conference realignment right now. I think when you look, and I'm kind of a numbers guy, when you look at our budget or our revenues, basketball has been the breadwinner for a long, long time. And I don't want to say we've ever hit a ceiling because we can always do more. But keeping basketball competitive and where they're at right now is crucial. But when you look at the amount of upside we have on the revenue side, football being successful, we exceeded ticket projections this year by 50%.
Wow.
I don't know that we could do that in basketball just because we're already doing so well. Right? So maintaining that is crucial. But I think when you look at the bigger picture, how can we invest in football to capitalize on that upside? And the stadium, as you mentioned, is a big piece of that.
And when you got a guy like Jason Eck here, if you guys are able to have steady winning seasons like that, you become attractive to, and not just saying that you're trying to get out the conference, but you become attractive to other bigger conferences. When you have that, is that kind of the goal to be attractive, to be the school that people are looking at going like, hey, we need that school.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Coach Eck is just an electric personality, and the way he's engaged with this community, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it. And the way people have rallied behind him is truly incredible. To your point, when you win games, people notice. Yeah. And I think when you look at conference realignment and where things are going, there was kind of a big bang the last few years of schools moving to conferences, and they're really all tied to television contracts. So the SEC has a contract with ESPN, and the Mountain West has a contract with CBS. And when those things start to get close to expiring is when you start to see some of this movement. Yeah. And so, we saw some of that movement the last few years. Looking ahead, if you just look at every conference in America, they're all going to come up again in 2030, 2031, 2032. And so really the next 5 years are crucial for how athletic departments and schools are perceived and maybe what that next iteration will look like.
And so now the time is now to get ready for that. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I think as competitors, the time is always now because we always want to win.
Right.
But to your point, right now with what's going on in college athletics, it's vital that we capitalize and keep this momentum that we have. If you look back, and man, you can help me with this, when was the last time Lobo men's basketball and football were successful at the same time?
Yeah, I want to say when Rocky Long was here, because football
those were special times, the way people describe them to me.
Yeah, those Rockies teams, man, they just show up and punch you in the face, man. Now you're trying to do all of this in the era of NIL. How challenging is that when you're trying to make sure you have a budget to get these student athletes their money, and you also want to improve the product?
Yeah, NIL is a long time coming, right? I think when you zoom out a little bit and look at college athletics, there was more and more money coming into the ecosystem from tickets, from TV, from sponsorship, from everything. And for the longest time, there was more money coming in, but the money couldn't be shared with the student athletes. And I think it finally reached a breaking point. And so we're at a point now, this is our first year really for every college in America, that schools can legally share revenue directly with their student athletes. So when we look at that, we look at what revenues are our student athletes helping to generate. And that's media from being on TV, that's ticket sales, that's hot dogs, that's T-shirts, that's all these revenues that are attached to them competing. And so how do we use those revenues to position ourselves to be successful and competitive? And it is challenging because I think we've seen people come and go, but I remind people that are Lobo fans, for every student athlete that maybe we're upset moved up, there's student athletes coming down or student athletes coming up from Division II or junior college. I mean, if you look at some of our players this year on both football and men's basketball and all of our sports, really, they're coming from both directions, right? We've capitalized on a lot of kids that were maybe playing FCS football that are now our best players in FBS. So there's an equilibrium here, and I know we're upset when someone leaves, but another fan base is upset when we take their player or their student athlete. So navigating all that, helping our coaches, being good fiduciaries, it's challenging, but I think we're doing a pretty good job. And
I think that's tricky because there's a lot of kids that get missed, get passed up, and they might be playing somewhere as a lesser-known place and stuff like that. And this kid, and then from 17 to 21, you have so much growth as a person. And so there might be late bloomers out there, guys who the light came on when they were 19. They were already good. They were just running off of raw talent. Now they're good and they know what they're doing. And that's, you know what I mean? So you get 100%. Some of those players. And so I think it all balances out because since that transfer portal opened up, it's been like an even playing field, especially football. It's not even, but more even. It's not like this team is going to get blown out because they're going to play the big school. The big school better watch out.
There is some of that. Yeah, I think our team did a good job of proving that a little bit this year. Yeah.
And how do you now take all this success and keep it moving forward?
Yeah, that's what keeps me up at night, right, is how do we maintain this momentum? Because it's been an amazing year. We went undefeated in home in football, undefeated in the last year in men's basketball. Our cross-country teams just finished 2nd and 4th in the country. Our men's tennis team just won a conference championship. So last year we had the record for most Mountain West championships. And so keeping that going is imperative. The momentum is crucial. So I think continuing to provide our coaches with the right resources to be competitive, preparing for what's upcoming with conference realignment. We're going to have some new foes in the pit and on the field and on the track next year. And so preparing for that. But I truly believe in this next 5 years that we'll be the best resourced athletics department. When I say resource, it's money, but it's fan support, it's community support in the Mountain West. I firmly believe that. And so when you have that mix, you can be competitive. Yeah,
and this is a time to establish your spot on top of the Mountain West when there's so much change going on. Like, it's going to look different in 2026. Are you looking forward to that? And what do you think about that, how some of these teams left and how it's going to look different?
Yeah, it is bittersweet, right? I think there's some amazing rivalries across the entire country, not just the Mountain West, that have been affected by conference realignment. So, one that hits home personally for me, we're going to San Diego State this weekend. To me, that's one of the best basketball rivalries on the West Coast. And my cousin is actually a graduate assistant coach at San Diego State, so this is his 6th year with the program. And so for 6 years, right, him and I have had a family rivalry, but all of San Diego and all of Albuquerque have had a rivalry.
Right.
And so to see those things disappear is hard, right? And I think it's hard for our student athletes, it's hard for our fans. But on the flip side, we're going to have some new rivalries coming in. That game last night against Grand Canyon, there was some juice in the pit last night. It was exciting, and I think kind of capitalizing on those new rivalries. So just balancing all of that and kind of how it impacts our budget or our operations, that's going to be vital in the next 12 to 18 months.
Backing up to talking about the stadium and stuff like that, do you guys want to redo the press box and everything? What are we talking about here? Are we talking about having a stadium that would be Power 4 worthy?
Yeah, it's a great question. Today actually we finished our phased plan. So for the last 3 to 4 months, we've been working with national experts in stadium design, and we have a phased plan on how to improve University Stadium. And so when I say phased, we're very mindful that we're not going to get a windfall of hundreds of millions of dollars to go build a new stadium, right, or to renovate everything all at once. So we've looked at it in how can we best achieve this long-term goal, and we've broken it up into 5 phases on how we think we can do that. To your point about premium and press box, I think that's a vital stage. it's kind of one of our later stages. I think earlier stages, we got to focus on getting people in, right? Providing proper amenities. I think we were 270 bathroom fixtures short. You know, we're 50 gates short. Our concourses are 9 feet. They're supposed to be 20 by code. So there's some low-hanging fruit that we can improve right away that I think will improve the experience for every Lobo fan. And so when we talk about how we rank those phases, it's how can we have the most impact on the most amount of people? And that's kind of how we've phased that. So we got that done. We're excited to share it probably next week when we go up to Santa Fe. The legislative session starts next week, and we're excited to share that because a lot of thought and hard work has gone into that.
What's the toughest part of your job, man?
It's a good question. I think it's politics, and I don't mean politics in the sense that, it's dealing with elected officials, but balancing what's important to a coach and how that may affect our marketing staff, or what's important to a fan that may impact our concession staff, and trying to balance, all of those things, and how do we make sure that what we're doing achieves the best for many. And I think about that often, having grown up in a program, a coach was, maybe hard on us and it affected us negatively or really good to us, and how did that affect us, and how can we best achieve that balance as we build culture? People
who probably don't know, what your day-to-day is, talk about that and how busy that is.
Especially the last few weeks.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, just this morning, for example, we were up in Santa Fe presenting on a project that we needed approval for. Came back, talked to a few donors on the phone, talked to a coach on the phone about a conference meeting we have coming up. We had a meeting about basketball. We got a big week coming up. We got a big two home games next week, and so getting ready for those games. So in and out, pretty constant, but talking to a lot of people, trying to keep everyone engaged, and especially right now, just reminding our staff that although we've had some change, they were all a part of the fun that we had, right? They all played a part in what we did, and so trying to keep everybody uplifted is certainly a goal.
And when you look at your staff, starting with Coach Eck, you must feel like, hey, man, we got something good going on. Let's try to keep this around for a while.
No doubt. And I think the community's really embraced Coach Eck and his family as well, which has certainly helped. So, I think having good people in leadership positions influences culture throughout the department. And so, how we hire head coaches or how we hire staff is vital, because the impact that they have trickles into the community and into our department. And so, it really starts with the hiring process and making sure we're bringing in good people.
You were talking about how you watch this whole thing layer by layer, going all the way back to your days as a student manager. What kind of lessons do you feel like you learned that you still use? Because, I'll give you an example, just even playing sports, and you're just out in the regular work world. When something happens, you're just like, oh, I quit. You don't do that. You're just like, okay, let's go, man. We got to figure this out. Because you get that in sports. You get perseverance. You get so many lessons in life. What do you feel like has helped you on your way up the ranks to prepare you for now?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, because I think sports teaches all of us something different but valuable life lessons. Yeah. I think with my journey, I grew up playing sports, so I learned the values of discipline and hard work and those kind of things. But I think my professional journey, when I became a student manager, my job was not to be seen, right? Yeah. How can I best support the student athletes and the coaches, right? In my eyes, and I had a boss tell me this, if we're noticed, it means something's wrong, right? Because the chairs should be organized and the jerseys should be up and the food should be ready. We shouldn't be noticed. And so I've taken that lesson that I learned early on, and how can I best support everyone else, right? How can I best position everyone else for success? And really, that's how I view being an athletic director, is how can I best set up our coaches to succeed? And if people aren't complaining, or our coaches aren't complaining about not having enough resources, to me, that means we're doing our job. We're supporting them. We're not being seen. We're out of the way. So that's kind of a lesson that I learned, just given my own journey, coming from the laundry room to where I am now.
And that seems more like a servant's heart, the humility and everything like that, which will allow you to prosper.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. And what we talked about right at the beginning, we were talking about basketball, man. Can you still hoop, man? I mean, are we talking, if they had an athletics director tournament, are you going to embarrass the Lobos, or are you going to be doing with your arms out, running down the court, like I'm the man.
I think I'd be a good 8th or 9th guy off the bench. I could give you a few minutes, Van, but I don't think I could lead the way.
You're not in the starting 5.
I don't think I'm in the starting 5. Our coaching staff is probably the starting 5. Some of those guys can still hit. Yeah.
Man, I'm just curious now. Man, I ask you, like you were talking about covering my son Jordan. What was like? What did he do to make you feel like, oh man?
That team was so well coached. I remember that team vividly. I remember they had Ryan Schaefer, who was a 6'8" big. Jonathan Allison was another guard.
Man, you do remember
team.
Everybody.
Yeah, because I had nightmares about all of them. But they were just so good defensively, and so like my game, I was trying to get to the rim, I was trying to dribble, and
that's his thing.
Penetrate.
Jordan was defensive,
and they were so good defensively.
Yeah.
And so if you think you get beat by somebody, well then here comes Jonathan and help, or here comes Ryan to block your shot. So I remember those games vividly because they kept me up at night. Like how can I tweak my game to have a little bit of success? Because those are tough games.
I'm going to have to ask him about you, man.
You probably don't remember me since they blew us out so many times.
Man, that is so interesting, man. Now you're making me feel like an old man. Hey, man, I wish you the best. I know how important it is to have local people do local things around here. And so I'm pulling for you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Van. I think time will tell what's next, but I'm going to give it my all because that's all I know how to do. So.
Okay. Ryan Berryman, Interim Athletic Director at the University of New Mexico. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.